Alrighty, folks, we made it to episode 5. We're almost there. I'm almost free of my curse to watch all of these and give reacts. So I'm really looking forward to being done with this series and moving on to less stupid things on my channel again. But here we go. Very excited though. I'm hoping that this episode ends up being a return to form of the first 3, because, well, quick recap, I didn't like episode 4 very much. I felt like all the stuff about shooting dogs could have been cut, and nothing would have been lost there. I did want to make a point of clarification. I think that I was a little bit harsh in the last bit of my react in episode 4, where I was talking about that lady. I think I said that, you know, her losing her baby and all was a complete fabrication. That's not really what I meant. I think I made it sound like that though. So what I was trying to say there was that I don't doubt the timeline of events, because they've done a really good job with that. I looked it up afterwards. I stepped out of my role as a Litty reactor and tried to look up some facts, which was annoying. And the timeline was indeed correct, but I still take issue with the whole the narrative they were spinning of this lady was pregnant, and then she got exposed by like hugging her husband, and then her baby got all these diseases and died soon after birth, as though like the baby died because of the mother's exposure and contamination and such. And I did my best to look up some of the facts on this. It turns out the baby died. It had a congenital heart defect, which I don't think has ever been established to have been caused by radiation. Also, it was supposedly a kind of jaundiced. Anyway, I'm not a medical person, but I'm pretty sure these things happen to newborns. They're just these weren't like rare illnesses relative. Well, they were rare in that most babies are born healthy, but there's a lot of sick babies out there that have those conditions that aren't caused by radiation, and as far as I could tell, it was never actually factually substantiated as being caused by exposure to radioactivity. I make a point of this because I think, like I've said before, the actual facts surrounding the incident and the aftermath are pretty well damning enough if you just present them as such. Like, if you want to get into long-term brain defects in people born near and after the accident, I'm pretty sure that those health effects are well substantiated. Incidents of thyroid cancer, those are all very directly linked and stuff like that. But, you know, this lady having a miscarriage is not one of those things. So it was one thing I took issue with, just because it's not substantiated as far as I can tell. So yeah, that's all the non-Litty stuff. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so I'm liking what I'm seeing so far in this episode. We flashed back, rewind time to 12 hours before the explosion. And first scene is this discussion between Dyatlov, this guy, I guess, who's the plant manager, and one other dude who I forgot who he is. Talking about the test and the context surrounding it, the pressure that they've been under for years to complete this test. I kind of doubt that they'll describe exactly what they're doing with the test, but it's really interesting, and you should look it up, what they were trying to do. It was, as I recall, it was basically a sustainability test, to where if the reactor got shut down in certain conditions because, say, you were attacked or something, and you all of a sudden lost all of your pumping power into the reactor, that the test was to see if you would have enough steam in order to power the turbines and restart the pumps in order to push more water into the reactor, basically to see if you could self-sustain under a complete loss of power to your pump power supplies, which I guess, I don't know what they are. I guess that would have to be normally powered by the power grid and not, directly powered by the reactor's output through steam. But yeah, they're getting into context. They're getting into all the preceding events to the accident. So this is a good sign. I like where this is going. All right, so Legasov and the KGB guy here are having a conversation about how Legasov did everything he had to and blamed Dyatlov in Vienna, and they're about to have his trial. So what the guy is saying here is that they'll go fix all the reactors after they blame Dyatlov some more. And it sounds like a evil KGB guy saying stuff like that, but realistically, if you have old and inherently not that safe reactors, it's actually kind of prudent to do something like institute procedural or operational restrictions on something like that, where you have a known issue, and you don't have to jump to scrapping every single reactor immediately. You can mitigate that risk in ways other than deconstructing the cores once you know what a problem is. And maybe that's kind of what Legasov means when he says fix the reactors. It's very, very vague. So that's not certain, but I thought that was worth pointing out. You can, there's a ton of reactors all over the world today that were designed in the 60s and 70s, built in the 60s and 70s, that have a lot of flaws that we know about now these days. Nothing on the scale of this type of reactor, hopefully, But yeah, you just operate them a little bit differently once you know issues. Alright, so Chris Tucker's talking us through the safety test that I was talking about before in this scene. I'm happy to hear that I got that mostly right based on his description here. There's not that much to react to. It's all kind of a laying out of the facts preceding the test and the years prior wherein the test was due to get done. Let's see, we had a couple scenes before this of the scientist lady telling Legasov to tell the truth because there's going to be a lot of scientists present. Yeah, I don't take any issue with pretty much anything so far. This is a nice little recreation. I've seen some photos from this show trial before. So it's clear that they worked very hard to make this an accurate recreation of that. We've had a few shots of Dyatlov with his white hair, just sitting there taking it. Same expression that he's had for the last few episodes. So this next scene is really, really good too. This one going on here, the lady scientist is describing the shift change that happens at midnight, and that you ended up with personnel who weren't prepared to perform the test. This is really good. I'm kind of hoping she ties it in a nice bow a little bit later on. So in my mind, there's kind of three pillars to safety in any industrial application, where you have the worker, which would be these guys, and their level of expertise, their level of experience, their level of training. You have their direct supervision, and then the third pillar is the quality of the procedure that they have. So as we just saw, the procedure is pretty ratty. It's got a lot of indirect, or what's the right word? It's not clear exactly what the procedure is based on a lot of stuff getting lined out. A lot of notes in the margins and such. that impede the actual communication of the procedure to the operators. Since Dyatlov has never done anything wrong, he's the supervisor, so he's going to be supervising these guys. I assume that he's going to be a really, really good supervisor. These guys are kind of weenies. They're kind of scared of him, but that doesn't really matter when you're doing your job. Yeah, so it's clear that the procedure is poor and that the operator expertise is poor, so it kind of all falls on the supervisor at that point, which is, single point failure. And you don't really want that in your nuclear tests. Alright, it's Legasov's turn, and he's going through his PowerPoint presentation. I want to give him props. Well, first I should mention that I'm hoping that this is the last time that we have written Cyrillic instead of English for whatever reason. It would probably be a lot easier for the audience to follow along if they actually had the visual aids that the comrade is presenting here. But I had that problem in episode 2, and I'm hoping that this is the end of it because it's kind of annoying. I'm also happy to see that he puts his PowerPoints together the same way that I do. He's not using any stupid clip art. He's not putting in any stupid transition effects. He's just putting the words up there, and then you should be paying attention to what he says. Anyone should take notes from Legasov here on how to do their PowerPoints. All right, so Legasov has started to talk about poison, and I knew what he was talking about, but when the lady before him was talking and she said that there was a poison building in the reactor, I'm sure that confused like 99% of the audience, especially after Legasov was like, this is the poison that she was talking about, and everyone is like, wait, I thought she was talking about like Satan dust in there or something that was going to kill everybody. This probably what ended up not being the most clear explanation to the audience, both watching on TV and those present who aren't scientists, because poison has a meaning that everybody knows. But yeah, poison is anything that will absorb neutrons. So he could have mentioned that water is a poison as well. That probably would have confused the issue even more. Overall, I like his PowerPoint still. He's doing a good job, but I don't know if the writers put that together so well. Maybe that was how the script of the trial went after all, so they just splatted it up there. Alright, so here we got Comrade Dyatlov making probably his first mistake of the series so far, as depicted. I'm surprised he's pushing to continue with this test because he's exercised such extremely good judgment up to this point. Being a real butthole to these guys who are making their case, and he's saying no, and he's not listening to him, and he's not making an effective counter argument, which is healthy in these scenarios to have opposing points of view if you can sort them out and discuss them. But he's continuing on with the test. So the problem they encountered was the huge amount of xenon shutting down the reactor from the previous extended 10 hours at 50% power, and they wanted to go down to like 25 or less than that, 700 megawatts. So they start shutting her down, and they have way too much xenon just sticking around in there. So what's going to happen next, I think, is they're going to start withdrawing rods, starting the reactor back up, and that's going to accelerate the burnout of that poisonous xenon. And then the effect you have is that you raise the reactor a certain amount, and more of that neutron absorbing xenon burns away, and that just compounds, and you have two different sources of what they call positive reactivity, kind of like Legasov was explaining earlier. and then you just kind of enter an even more unstable environment than you were at before. All right, I paused it right after a very, very touching and good scene between our dynamic duo, where Boris reveals that he'll be dead in a year, and he says that you never think that it'll happen to you, and I feel like that's a very, very good description of a one sentence description of the accident overall. That kind of is a great theme running through this, from all present, moving forward with the confidence and the belief that these things will never happen to me. I think that that scene was really, really good, and well acted. All right, so Legasov just gave his last big speech at the trial, where he explained that the control rods, the AZ5 button, isn't gonna do what it's supposed to under the circumstances that they were in, and is a fatal design flaw in this type of reactor. I suppose that is the kind of the big takeaway in his big the end of his character arc. I just want to say that the whole trial was so well put together. It was really everything that I was hoping for throughout most of the series, with a in-depth breakdown of a ton of things at every single point. So far, the only thing that I kind of doubt, that I'm a little bit skeptical of, was how they ended up portraying Dyatlov as like the biggest douche in the world. In the hours leading up. I kind of doubt that that's fully faithful to the facts, just because it was kind of cartoonish, but I don't know. Maybe that was the testimony of all the operators, was that Dyatlov is a huge asshole. But yeah, really, really good. This is the best episode of the series so far. Like I said, it was everything that I mentioned that I was hoping for as the series progressed. Whew! Damn, that last scene was hard to watch. I mean, wow. That's so that's the whole series. Like I was saying before, this episode was very, very good and met all of my expectations and hopes that I was hoping where the series would end up going, and it really delivered on all that. There wasn't that much to provide reacts for, but yeah, this was overall a really good series. I'm glad they tied it up so well at the end, with the timeline and all of the contributing factors towards the accident. So I was kind of, pointing out earlier that in the conversation between the KGB guy and Legasov at the very beginning, where he was saying that they would correct the problems after the trial, and that there were ways to mitigate those problems in the meantime, and I think that was borne out pretty well by the timeline of events here. Obviously, a design flaw as serious as control rods tipped with a neutron moderator, like graphite, is a serious design flaw, at which point you should not operate the plant at all. I just wanted to make that clear. But yeah, really beautifully done there at the end. Alright, well, thanks for watching.